With 5 weeks of NFL action in the books, this football season has continued to keep me invested in the storylines and takeaways. As an expert hot take baker, I've been busy in my kitchen, and I have some fresh, steaming, hot out of the oven takes. Welcome back to the Hot Takery. I'm your head chef, Nolan Collery, and with me today are two football analysts who are absolutely starving for my fresh-baked takes, Josh Bartosik and Declan Stablow. I'm going to pull my hottest takes straight out of the oven and see if my new sous chefs will choose to cash in or take my stuff straight to the trash bin. So, gentlemen, let's take a bite out of this one. The New York Giants are off to a scorching hot 4-1 start this year. If they can stay healthy and they can keep both offensive and defensive pressure high, I think we're looking at a sneaky playoff team. I'll kick it to you, Josh. What do you think?
I'm going to take your bakery right here, this takery, but I'm only going to take it about halfway. I think they could be a playoff team. I don't know about sneaky playoff team. They're definitely not a Super Bowl contender, but you have to give them credit for what they're doing. They're doing all of this with Daniel Jones, who's 20th in the league in QBR. They're doing it with only 4 healthy receivers, and they've beaten some good teams. They beat the Titans, and they just beat the Packers in London. This is a team that's doing it all right. Brian Daboll, as the head coach, has been doing a phenomenal job. The Giants did everything right in the offseason to do what they need to do to give Daniel Jones and Saquan Barkley the best opportunities to win a football game. And can we talk about how Saquon Barkley is finally going back to what he saw in college and in his rookie season? He's finally injury-free for now. Could obviously change. We know how it is. You know, there's a couple of Giants fans here. I don't want to jinx anything for them, but he's looked phenomenal. He's leading the league in rushing, and this is a team that their next 4 games, they play the Ravens, the Jaguars, the Seahawks, and the Texans. Worst case scenario, they lose 2 of those games, and they're still sitting at a very respectable record near the top of the NFC East.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm not buying into the Giants' playoff hype just yet. Even after an impressive win across the pond against the Packers, they have yet to play a team whose offense is not bottom 11 in scoring, and I want to see how they do against a high-powered Ravens offense. The number that really stands out to me with the Giants is that they're giving up 56 penalty yards a game. You can't win in the NFL if you aren't disciplined. Daniel Jones has looked in command, and Saquon has brought a breath of fresh air to this offense that they desperately needed. But if that O-line doesn't continue to improve, there's no way they're going to be able to contend with the Eagles for this division. Daniel Jones has to be more of a playmaker than a game manager.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. It's definitely early to buy into this kind of hype, but I like what I'm seeing. So let's take a look at a different team, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, just a few short weeks ago, I pressed the patent-pending Nolan Collery panic button on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm hitting it with 2 hands right now. I don't like what I'm seeing at all. This team does not inspire me. I'm not certain that they're true contenders going forward. I'm going to kick it to you first, Declan. What do you think about that?
When I look at this Tampa Bay team, I see a deeply talented roster that is just doing the bare minimum necessary to win games. With all the talent at wide receiver, running back, O-line, and of course the GOAT at QB, they've only put up 1 game with 30 points, and it was a game their defense allowed 40. They need to be firing off right from the get-go, and I think they have what it takes because even though they haven't been producing, they've been efficient, limiting sacks and turnovers. Tom Brady's only thrown 1 pick this year, and you have to think about the offseason turmoil that they've gone through. There is Tom Brady's 1-month retirement. He's going through some extracurriculars right now, obviously. And of course, they switched from offensive guru Bruce Arians at head coach to a defensive mind like Todd Bowles. There's going to be some growing pains, and I'm not ready to write off the GOAT just yet.
You know, Nolan, I'm going to have to agree with you again just because they don't really look that solid. This is a team that's sitting right now 16th in the league in points per game. Last year, they were top 2, and they were number 2 in points per game. They're only being carried right now by that defense that's top 10. They're sitting around 6th right now. Tom Brady has not looked like it. You mentioned Todd Bowles. I was never really sold on him as a head coach, and I'm still not sold on him as a head coach. You called it extracurriculars. I'm going to be straight up. Tom Brady is about to have 2 divorces, the one with his wife and the one that his football team is going to have when they eventually get knocked out in the wild card round, if they even make it that far.
I have to agree with you. Again, I'm going to keep paying attention to this team, but I don't love what I'm seeing. So here's the thing. I'm one good baker. And as any good baker does, I save my hottest, freshest stuff for last. It's time to talk about the Chargers. The Chargers undoubtedly have one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. I had them as an easy playoff team, and I had Justin Herbert as a top 3 at least MVP finisher. I am so disappointed in them so far. Even with a 3-2 record, I think it's a head coaching issue. Looking at last year's final game of the season against the Raiders and then looking at the Browns game this week, Brandon Staley makes baffling decisions. If the Chargers want to go anywhere, Staley has to be fired, and they have to do it soon. What do you guys think?
You know, Nolan, you're such a good chef today. 3 for 3. I just can't get enough of your hot takes. I completely agree. Brandon Staley has just not been it. Everyone calls him the analytics god because he mentioned analytics one time. It hasn't worked out. He goes for on fourth down, seemingly on every play, even when he's in his own end, like on 4th and 2, on his own 18 last year. He single-handedly gifted the Raiders a playoff berth last year when if you just didn't call a timeout, both the Raiders and the Chargers were making the playoffs, and the Chargers haven't made the playoffs in God knows how long. Yes, you can say that there are injuries. Obviously, Slater being out for the season and Joey Bosa being injured does hurt. But they still have a lot of talent on that team. Justin Herbert is still a top 3 quarterback, like you mentioned. Austin Eckler is finally coming to his own again this season. Mike Williams is still a really solid receiver when they actually get him the ball. This team should not be struggling like they are. They were a missed field goal away from being 2-3. They should realistically be at the top of the AFC West, especially when the Raiders and the Broncos are not playing up to their potential. Brandon Staley needs to go out the door.
You know, if you had asked me before the season, I would have told you the Chargers were my pick for the Super Bowl and Justin Herbert was my pick for MVP. They've got talent all across the offense and a defense that going into the season looked like it had superstars at all 3 levels. And they invested heavily in that defense. They gave J.C. Jackson a deal worth $80 million that he has not lived up to. They gave up a lot for Khalil Mack. He's been all right, but he hasn't been that game-wrecking player we've seen in the past. And when you have a defensive-minded coach like Brandon Staley, you expect more from that type of talent. They have not allowed less than 20 points since week 1.
Well, you know, I think that it's clearly an issue that we're going to have to keep watching during the season because this team is too talented not to make it far. Well, it's time to close up shop for the night here at the Hot Takery on Penn State Sports Night. For Josh Bartosik and Declan Stablow, I'm Nolan Collery. Make sure you keep your baked goods hot, but your takes even hotter.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night. We hope you liked that segment.
And we're sure there's other Penn State Sports Night segments that you are going to love as well. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content.
And check us out on social media for updates and behind the scenes clips and pics. Follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with all the action.
For all of us here at the Belisari Media Center, we are
Penn State Sports Night.